Welcome to Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast, your weekly dose of many discussions and opinions, a show where we get comfortable being uncomfortable. And remember, no topic is off limits. Now let's talk about it.
All right, I gotta get my shit together then. That's happening. Yes.
All right, so we're gonna just dive right in because we've been recording. So, all right, guys, welcome back to another week and another episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast. I am your host, Misty, and today, you've heard that voice. I know y'all heard that voice. The voice is like no other. I am going to ask my guests to introduce themselves, but I do want to tell you off the bat that this is a fellow podcaster. Yeah. Y'all heard it here first. I've never deep dived into my journal to self-love, but I'm going to on his show, which means y'all after this episode are going to want to go and to the show notes, click the link, go hit subscribe to his show and catch up. And wait until I deep dive into that one when I come on and keep supporting, because that's what we do in this podcasting industry family here. So to my amazing guest with this amazing voice, because I love your voice, would you like to introduce yourself to my audience?
See, that's funny because I love your voice. It's one of the first things I said when I first met you, that how much I love your voice. I am Jarratt DAMN. I am the host of It's About Damn Time podcast. I'm also 1/3 of the Vex Intellects podcast, and I blog. I do digital content. I help people with digital content. I do a lot of stuff. I'm a dad.
Yes.
I like Marvel movies. all that.
I'm all for it.
I'm also a fellow Jay-Z fan, just like Miss D. So she know the vibes. So that's me. Jarratt DAMN.
That's right. Welcome, Jarratt. I appreciate you coming to the show. Y'all, you know what? I'm actually going to link both podcast shows so you guys can go follow and support. But most importantly, what I do love as we continue, right, to be part of this alumni, right, and this community of podcasting is like everyone just is so multifaceted. It's just so amazing to me, the many talents that everyone has. We're bloggers, we're writers, we're podcasters, we're producers, we're creatives, digital contents, and on top of that, parents, we have careers, we have everything going on, and we still show up and show out. So, it is what it is, and I'm here for it. I want to dive right into what this show is going to be about. As always, it's Double Dose of Raw Talk here. We just keep it all the way raw, right? I mean, what else?
Absolutely.
What else can you expect? So what we do here, we always open up with Raw Mess of the Week, right? I used to do icebreakers before, but I find it that, with the Raw Mess of the Week, it might be a little bit related to the topic at hand, or it's just, a good kickoff. So for Raw Mess of the Week, I happen to have encountered a little meme on social media. And when I read it and when I saw it, it stayed with me. One, because it's of my favorite singer. Shout out to my bad girl, Riri. Rihanna fans, okay? One, but two, it's a concept I never really looked at it from this angle, and I want to share it with you to see how everybody feels about it too. And to any of my listeners, if you agree, disagree, or what have you, and you want to, dive into it and discuss a little bit more, please come on over and let me know. So it is a meme of Rihanna at age 18 on the left, my left, and it is a picture of Rihanna at age 28. 10-year difference. And someone wrote, I love this because she clearly looks older and also substantially better. And that is what happens to women despite society's eerie obsession with youth. She hasn't aged a day, in quotations. Actually, she has, and it's amazing. I wanted to dive into that and make that the Raw Mess of the Week. And I want to get messy with it because I figure, right, a lot of people like to talk about this like, oh, I still look this age, or I still look that age, or I look young, and this, that, and the third, and it's cool, right? It's all these compliments, right? Mm-hmm. Because like as if aging is a bad thing. And then I'm like, nah, hold up a second. Like, why is it that we are focusing so much on, oh, you aged like fine wine, or you haven't aged a bit. Oh my god, like you still look the same age. This 10-year challenge shit. I look like this at 25 versus 35. And making it kind of implies like it's a bad thing to get older. And here
Right.
I am planning for my 40th birthday and I'm 35. A
Right.
little bit of thoughts on that. What do you think, Jarratt?
You know what? I agree with you. I think we do put a lot on age, in how we look as far as age goes. Be perfectly honest with you, I like when people look their age. Like, so anytime we were doing those that 10-year challenge, I always sided with the person on the right. I'm like, you look better now than you did when you were younger. And
Yes.
me personally, who didn't have a whole lot of self-esteem in the looks department, but I'm working on it. But if
Yeah.
I look at myself from 10 years ago from now, am I a lot heavier? Yeah. But do I look better? Oh, I definitely look better at 41 than I did at 31. Like, I'm just easy. Beard alone. so
I hear
so
you. First of
yeah,
all, we
yeah.
do we do love beard way better. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
put it
Thank you
out
very much.
there. We do.
You making me blush. You making me blush. But I mean, no. But seriously, I think we're putting way too much into. Hey, we need to look. You look young, or you look real young, or you look real young. Look how you look. The best is always yet to come.
Mhm.
I think right now I am at my best self. That's where I feel mentally, where I feel physically, where I feel emotionally. I am at my best self that I've been in 41 years, and I plan on next year around this time that I be even better than I am now. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, I like that. That you'll be even better. You know what's crazy? It's so funny because I had not even planned it. I always like to pick something for the raw mess of the week that's very current, very recent, something that's just gonna give that topic of conversation, right?
Mhm.
And the 10-year challenge was from some time ago, but we already know every year it's like the same challenge always comes up, right? We already
Mhm.
know this shit.
Right.
Um, but what really struck me with that, and it was so funny because I was planning to today, talk about that as the raw mess of the week because I saw the meme, I believe it was yesterday. And today I actually just came from dropping off my kid at a birthday party, which I'm gonna do a whole post at that, right? Because I was a little bit emotional. I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually gonna put him on my Instagram, like my public one, because you
Oh
already
wow.
know I'm very
Yeah.
protective with him and
Yeah.
I respect, his privacy too. But I am gonna put it because it was like a little bit of a reality check for me, right? And I came across old pictures. And I'm 35 today, right? And I've been pretty transparent on this
Like
with
today?
no, well, no, not today. My birthday's November 18th, but not today. Like
Oh,
today in present time, I'm 35, right? Well, for the
have
record, thank you. But for the record, I might start celebrating as of November 1st, my
you
36th
should.
birthday, which will be the 18th of November. But I'm just saying. So I was looking back on some pictures, right? Because I'm like, I want to post a picture when he was much younger, and he was like still holding my hand and taking pictures with me,
Right.
because he's a teenager, right? And I came across a picture of when I was around 24, 25. And I was actually much thinner. I was much thinner. I was. But I wasn't in the good physical shape that I needed to be. I was
Mm-hmm.
actually extremely sick back then, which is very related to, my lowest point, very
Mm-hmm.
related to some of the toughest times of my life, depression, a little dose of substance abuse, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was much much thinner, but it wasn't a healthy thin. In fact, it was very much so aligned with a previous hospitalization and emergency surgery, right?
Wow.
And so looking back at that, it's like no, because you know what? When I look at myself today, yeah, I have my good days and I have my bad days. Yeah, I have my days where I'm tired, but you know what? I am to your point, in a better place. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that when we kind of like sort of stigmatize this category of aging as it's a bad thing to look older, and we focus strictly on the surface, we're very superficial on that, right?
Right.
Because why aren't we looking at it entirely for who the person is too, right? So
Mm-hmm.
who Rihanna was at 18, maybe her career was just starting off, but look at her at 28. My
Mm-hmm.
homegirl has businesses, still her music trajectory. Like, what doesn't she have? And I think that applies even to people like ourselves. Were you 10 years ago doing podcasting? Were you 10 years ago blogging, balancing parenthood, career, doing a digital creative, content creative? Were you doing all of that? Because look at where you are today, right? And so we put like a little bit of the stigma around this whole aging factor. Like, oh, she hasn't aged one bit. Oh, he hasn't aged one bit. Like, that's supposed to be the effect of a trophy
Mm-hmm.
or winning some form of a champion. And it's really not,
Right.
because I want to know your story. I want to know behind that, like, where are you today versus where were you 10 years ago? And then let's give you a round of applause. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Absolutely. I mean,
Like,
absolutely. The story on how you got there is always better than you. The fact that you just being there, getting to the destination, the journey is always way more important and way more interesting.
absolutely. Absolutely. So this is why I wanted to make this the raw mess of the week. And I'm sure there's going to be people who are not going to agree with me. And that's perfectly fine. I'm okay. I'm always up for a friendly debate here. But I just wanted to nip that shit in the ass, because I'm going to be honest with you. I remember growing up, I have an aunt, and shout out to her because she's still the one aunt I talk to on my dad's side of the family. And I love her to pieces. But I remember she used to not like to celebrate her birthday. She used to not like to talk about her getting older. And looking at her back then and looking at her today and looking at just her story in general and where she is today and so much that she's overcome, when I look at her now, I just find her to be just so beautiful. And when I see her, like, I embrace her, I hug her, and it's just so great to see her. Like, it's so great to be able to have that presence with her.
Right.
And looking back on it, it's like, damn, I really wish she would have celebrated every single year of her life to where she is today, because it tells her whole story. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
let's not be ashamed of aging. Let's take pride in that. And it's kind of like every year, it's kind of like another brick to that foundation you're
Yeah.
building, to your whole story. You know what I mean?
I like
Just
that.
saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I like that.
It's like
Yeah.
bricks. All right. So with that conversation at hand, we're going to jump right into the first segment of the show, which is As Raw as It Gets. And on this segment is usually when we pick up the main topic of the conversation that we're going to have today. And it very much so has to do with someone's story, right? Our story, our individual stories, but also what that experience has been for us. And I want to dive into, and I definitely discussed this in the past with previous guests before, but I wanted to dive into what everyone's story is individually and how that may sometimes be categorized or looked at as imposter syndrome, right? When we are evolving, when we are, lately I've been saying the dipping and dabbing, but that's a terrible phrase to say because, the other day I said it out loud and somebody was like, "You're what?" I was like, "Not chill, not like that." But when we have our hands, into different life, right? Different lifestyles. So here I am as a podcaster, and on my 9 to 5, I'm a healthcare worker, and I am at all times of the day a mother, right? But I'm also doing other type of work, other type of collaborations, other type of businesses, right? For those that don't know, and my listeners right now, my audience, imposter syndrome is literally defined as perceived fraudulence involving feelings of self-doubt and personal incompetence that persists despite your education, experience, and accomplishments. Okay. So knowing what we know already with our potentials, what we're able to do, what we're capable of doing, what we have achieved. We still stand there and we still doubt ourselves sometimes, right? How does that, right? How do our stories truly make a difference to when we sit there and we doubt ourselves, to when we sit there and we're going through the imposter syndrome? I know I've gone through it. Have you gone through it with the imposter syndrome?
Oh, absolutely. I've gone through it. I'm still going through it. I mean, to be honest with you, if you remember when we first crossed paths, we crossed paths on Clubhouse, and that's when I met you, Angel,
Everybody, all the podcasters,
all the podcasters, right?
Yeah.
So during that time frame, y'all, I mean, I guess y'all just seemed so confident in what y'all were doing in the products that y'all was putting out. I think I was between my first and second season of my solo podcast. I had been doing Vex for a couple of years, but it's real different when you do your own podcast. It's you just out there, it's out there in the world. So I was I literally was talking to y'all, and y'all were just going over tips and talking about stuff with podcasts, and I'm just like, I am not. How many times did I slide in your DMs like talking about how I was the confidence level? I didn't know if I was gonna be able to do this and be able to do that, and it just got to the point where I don't know exactly what happened. I think it's probably with my relaunch of my podcast.
Yeah.
I end up kind of learning that I may know a little bit more than what I thought I know. And it's more so of just having that confidence in yourself and doing it. And I think even this season, just as I'm getting ready to wrap season 3, I'm like I feel more confident now than I did before, because when I was getting ready to wrap seasons prior, I was like, am I going to quit? Am I going to stop? Am I not going to come back? Because when I'm right around time when I met y'all, I was debating if I was going to come back for another season. I was like, it was.
Really?
I mean, people liked it and people were like proud of me and everything, but at the same time, that pressure and I just didn't know where I was going. I already have depression and anxiety. I have severe depression and anxiety. So going just with all that on top of everything else, I didn't even think if I was going to be able to do it again. And the fact that I've come back, that I'm this many episodes in, and definitely know I'm coming back for a 4th season, and it feels really different now than it did a year ago, and it's just amazing on that transition. And again, still with imposter syndrome, because there are certain things where I'm trying to move to a different level. I'm like, well, can I do this? Can I get into podcast production for other people? Can I help them with their concepts and get their voice out there? Is it something that I can do? And I'm like, yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
So it's a constant fight with imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Would you say though that it's probably, and I hate to say it this way, but I'm going to, right? Because he's such an avid fan of Marvel. When you think about like the bad guy, right? The arch nemesis, would you say that imposter syndrome is that arch nemesis to the story that we are naturally telling as we live our lives and everything that we are building up?
Yeah, definitely. Imposter syndrome is, I can't speak for anybody else, but imposter syndrome is definitely my arch nemesis, and we fight a lot. And most time, imposter syndrome be winning. To be honest with you, I'm happy to get a couple of good licks in. This time around, I actually feel like I'm winning. But yeah, it's that because with digital content and creating and podcasting, it's so much out there, and then and you're right, it is a community, it is a family. But even with a family, you're like, wow, I love Daisy. I love the podcast you do. Ooh, Daisy writing the ebook. I was trying to write some stuff. Oh, I need to get Daisy doing well. Daisy got hoodies. I need to get me some hoodies. Like you do have that comparison. So it's not like you're competing against your family, but you do have that comparison. And then you start thinking, well, is my stuff good enough where I can sell this, where I can do this, where I can move to a different level? So that gets in your head, and that's where that arch nemesis is created, that imposter syndrome.
That is so true. You know what's crazy though? And I guess that's where we have to be able to look at it in a different way, right? Because a lot of people, I guess because of imposter syndrome is that arch nemesis for probably a lot of people who, and I'll put myself in that, right? Because, and I don't want to dive too much details into it, but you guys already know you could definitely get a copy of my ebook for this, right? When you're building up confidence, or when you're living in your truth of confidence, right? It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday uphill, right? The confidence that I fell asleep with last night because of whether how great my day was, or how much I accomplished, or how much of the percentage in tasks that I was able to check off, or how good I feel, right, is not the same amount that I wake up with. It's not, right? Because
Right.
tomorrow is always going to be a new day. It's always going to
Mm-hmm.
be a different day. And you have that confidence level that fluctuates from day to day, right? You have that overall confidence that you just kind of walk with no matter where you go, no matter what time of the day, that's just naturally exuding from you because of where you are in life, right? Because the truth is, life will always throw you curveballs and it can totally debilitate that confidence that you have when it's just something that you've just never dealt with, something you've never encountered, something that just throws you out of a game so off, and you just don't know how are you supposed to tackle this shit and how are you supposed to overcome things, right? There are those things that are completely out of our control, and there goes our confidence, and there goes our doubt. Our confidence decreases, our doubt increases. Then
Mm-hmm.
here comes our imposter syndrome, right? Whether it is something in career path or whether there is something in our lives, just knowing what we've overcome, and does that always guarantee that I'm going to be able to overcome the next best thing that comes my way because God said I could handle it.
Right.
But well, can I really though? Can I
Right.
really? Is this really something
Right.
I can do? Because the imposter syndrome can totally kick in again, whether it's something of a talent, whether it's something of actual creative spaces, whether it's something that just gets all my work into, whether it's a revamp or a relaunch, a podcast, or even in my career when I'm trying to completely make a shift or a change in something in my role, right? It's
Right.
like, how do we always guarantee it? There is no guarantee because the confidence I had yesterday is not the same as today. I kid you
Right.
not. Like every day I do wake up and I go through my affirmations and I do my meditation and I do my breathing exercises. But I cannot tell you I feel my absolute best every single day, right? And I know
Absolutely.
that happens to every single person, right? And so the doubt will always still kick into me. I'm not gonna lie, and you know what? Because we are gonna keep it all the way raw here, I'm gonna keep it all the way raw. I had to take a week off from the show to gather myself, to
Mm-hmm.
really gather myself. And for 2.5 seconds, it felt so good to have that break that I questioned myself. I questioned everything I had done and I said, do you need to quit? I really questioned myself because it felt just so good to
Really?
take a break.
Because
Yes.
because because of that week break,
Yes.
you're over 90 episodes in, and you
Yes.
questioning if you were going to.
Yes.
Wow.
I actually
Wow.
questioned it. To like
Wow.
recently, just last week I questioned it. Because last week I released the episode of like my comeback, right? And it
Right.
felt good to come back. And part of that reason why it felt so good was because I didn't pick the answer of yes, quit.
Yeah.
I decided to continue. That did feel good. My confidence did boost up again. Every single day, every single week, that fluctuates. And I do think that in different aspects of our lives, imposter syndrome could definitely kick us in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I did a thing, and I definitely talked about it in last week's episode about the self mastery conference I went to,
Right.
and some of the panelists I encountered, and the amazing things that they said, just as business coaches and life coaches. And one of the things that really dawned on me in that moment, right? We live in a society where we see so much about public figures. You know, that status on Instagram that you're a public figure. Like I'm a public
Right.
figure, you're a public figure because, our pages are public.
Right.
Right? And how much of the public knows me? About 774 people know me. Just about, right? But it made me think for a second, right? At this conference that I went to, which was so much about self mastery and self love and self care, right? Something that we all sometimes need to hear from other people. I realized that those people up on the panel are technically public figures,
Right.
but they are more so public speakers. And it dawned on me that there is a difference between a public figure and a public speaker.
Right.
And was something that I kind of, when you go down a rabbit hole, I kind of went down this rabbit hole in thoughts, right? Because I do this to myself. Jarratt, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but it dawned on me and I said, hold on a second. You mean to tell me that these public figures that we're constantly encountering on Instagram, on Facebook, they might also be going through imposter syndrome, but they show us what always looks good, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Very few
Yeah.
of them will keep it all the way raw with us, right? My
Right.
girl Lizzo will go on IG and crying hysterical because, the public just comes for her no matter what she does, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Heard you. But when you deal with public speakers, when you are listening to public speakers, I feel wholeheartedly that speakers tend to open up the door a little bit more to the vulnerable topics,
Yeah.
to their stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they've built up brick by brick. And they share their experience more so with imposter syndrome. I wanted to know your thoughts about the public figure image versus the public speaker image. And do you think one is more authentic than the other?
I kind of agree with you. I do feel like the public speaker image is more authentic than the public figure image. And it's for those reasons you said. Like you can be on social media, and social media is really good at helping perpetuate that imposter syndrome by that public figure giving out all the highlights of everything they've done. Like, oh, look at me, I've got 10,000 followers. Look at me, I just had 50,000 downloads for my podcast. Look. And you like, oh man, I was just sitting there struggling with my little funky
Yeah.
stats, So then you kind of get in your own head with that, but uh, the public speakers has always been the people who I've kind of gravitated to, the ones that talk about their struggle, the ones that have TED Talks that are so engaging that you go back and listen to over and over again because it just hits you at the right spot.
Mm.
Those are the ones that I've always wanted to be a public speaker more than a public figure. I'm an introvert, so I don't want to really be a public figure, but I do want to be able to speak to people about and tell my stories, and if it helps people get ahead, and if it helps people to live to another day. If someone says, "Hey, Jarratt has struggled with depression, and he's been suicidal, and he wanted to end it all, and he didn't think he was going to live to be 30 years old," all of that, and look, he still keeps pushing. I'm going to keep pushing too, and those are things that are way more important to me than Instagram likes and downloads. Although those things are nice as well.
I mean, they are. They are. They are. And let's face it. And I don't want to. I don't want to make it seem like certain people didn't buy into my ebook through hashtagging, through tags, through Linktree on Instagram, on social media, because I did get people to buy that ebook and to just listen to a quick dose of my story, and the things that helped me come out of that, right?
Right.
And I thank you so much for being so vulnerable and so open about what you just said, because it's definitely what we're going to dive into the double or nothing, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things you just touched on, and it is exactly what I wanted to gather here on this segment, as raw as it gets, is, you have people's stories who are impacting. And then you have people's stories who influence you. And I'm not talking about just social media influencers, right? That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about stories that impact, but then stories that influence. I'm talking about when I see someone post 15,000, 16,000, 20,000 downloads, right? And am I choosing to allow that imposter syndrome to take over me, right? And to get upset, right? I'm gonna have to put this clip up of me doing air quotes, because somebody's gonna understand that I just did that shit, right? Air quotes, insert them.
Air quotes, y'all.
Air quotes, y'all. But am I gonna let that imposter syndrome take over, totally kick ass to everything I've already accomplished in what I'm doing, right? Or am I going to look at that person who is ahead, who is showing that they can do it, and maybe I could do it too? Am I going to use that to stay motivated, to stay more driven, because that person just has so much passion in this? And maybe I need to do some soul searching and to dig a little deep. In that self-mastery conference, they kept using the phrase tapping in. Tap yourself in, give yourself that mic, talk about the shit, right? Tap into yourself, talk to you. They kept saying that. And what really struck me in that was, and I might go into it in the double or nothing, or maybe in a Solita episode coming up. But one of the things I realized was a lot of the self-doubt that I sometimes encounter, no matter how much I may exude the confidence, there is still some self-doubt I encounter ever so often. And a lot of that does have to do with my inner child. And I realized that
Mm,
at that conference, a lot of that has to do with my inner child and certain things that I experienced as a child that sometimes have trickled over into still my adulthood because it's still memories, right?
right, right.
It's still there. It's still real childhood traumas, as we call them, air quotes again,
Hmm.
right? That just because I've been able to overcome them, maybe doesn't mean I've dealt with them. It doesn't
Exactly.
mean that I've faced them. It
Right.
doesn't mean that I've been able to check them off. Mind you, you're talking to someone who's been in therapy for a very long time, is about to return, and that's on my agenda. The first things I want to talk about with a therapist now. I really want to dig that far deep into, never mind a 10-year challenge. I
Right.
want to go into a 30-year challenge. I want to go
Exactly.
into a 25-year challenge with my therapist now. You know what I mean? You mentioned you wanting to more so be a public speaker than a public figure,
Right.
right? It's the story that impacts and also that influences. Your ultimate goal in that, because we are going to dive into it in the double or nothing a little bit more with what your experience has been with mental health awareness, is of course, because it's definitely something I do talk about very much so, and I tapped into in my ebook. But when you speak on becoming or continuing to grow in, because technically speaking you are a public speaker, you have a whole mic to do so, so I just want to put it out there that you are. And when you come on your show, even with your solo episodes, and like you really put your heart on that mic and you really let it out, that is
Yeah.
public speaking. And there are people who are listening to you that can relate, that can sit there and say, damn, he's right. Like, damn, he makes sense. Like, damn, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you are technically a public speaker. What would be your ultimate goal? You know, the day, I don't know, that you might even be able to stand in front of a stage and really public speak to someone. Like, what would be your ultimate goal in that? And by asking that question, I mean you're kicking imposter syndrome in the ass. You're kicking them off the stage.
I would definitely have to be kicking imposter syndrome off in the ass for me to be on stage. Look, I would love that, but when you talk about childhood air quote traumas and
Yeah.
everything, and it's so true. I work with my therapist in identifying those, and I tried to like downplay it to the but it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's real, and it's amazing what you carry. Like when I think about public speaking, I carry being in church, 1985, 1986, giving out an Easter speech, and
Really?
and having a mic in my hand, and my hands just shaking because my mama made me memorize the entire speech because everybody else can read off the speech, but my mama, no, baby, you gonna memorize this speech.
Yes.
So I memorized the speech, and I'm sitting there shaking, and she's like, "Baby, if you do your speech and you don't cry, I'll buy you some chicken nuggets. You tell me I'm buying, you give me some chicken McNuggets from McDonald's, we
You,
winning." But
you,
I was so scared, hands just shaking, voices crackling, and when I think public speaking, it always takes me back to that because every time she told me she'll buy me chicken nuggets if I did good. Well, she bought me chicken nuggets anyway because I didn't do the good. I cried. I cried every time.
you know us mothers. We still gonna get you what we said was that, but for the effort, I'm gonna get you those nuggets for the effort because
Mom, I tried.
No, that's right. I'm gonna give you the nuggets for the effort. I don't care. I could never do that to myself. Yeah, I understand your mom. 1000%.
But that's what, and see, that's the funny thing. That's what public speaking reminds me of. So, as much as you're right, with this mic in, in my apartment, and I'm giving, especially with solo episodes, and I'm giving all of me, I'm being as raw as it gets. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
And I got you. And so, so I'm being this just transparent person. Even here in this controlled environment, I'm nervous about doing it. I'm always nervous about my mental health episodes. I've always been nervous about writing my mental health blogs because I mean that's a part of me that a lot of that maybe I'm not proud of in that thinking. Maybe I wasn't proud of the fact that how I wanted to end my life and why I wanted to end my life and things of that nature. But I'm still nervous with that. But to do that in front of people, I mean that I would I would definitely kick imposter syndrome in the ass if I could make that happen. So I guess that could be your ultimate goal for me, but that might be like maybe a year and a half out the
I
way. I'm like,
mean, and
you
that
know,
and that and that happens in a blink of an eye.
yeah,
That happens
yeah,
in a blink of an eye. You know, because you're keeping it all the way raw. I want to keep it all the way raw with you too. I do because it's only fair, right? Because it's
it's
what I
only fair.
should do, right?
Right.
Um, so it's funny that you brought up an inner child, childhood trauma, right? An inner child tapping in moment right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again at this conference, there's a company called Rizos Curls, and it's a hair care type of company, right? Brand. She is a Latina woman, Julissa Prado. She was the keynote speaker at this conference. And what was crazy, one of the questions that they asked her was how does she remain confident, right? Like, where does her confidence come from? And she said that when she was, I think, in kindergarten, which let me just say this, and I'm going to announce it here, okay? That was exactly the aha moment I had, where I realized that this whole time where I thought my confidence came from was not it, because I also had a similar experience as her and a similar experience as yours, but the result was a little bit different, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Julissa Prado said, and shout out to her, amazing girl who started off her hairline for curly girl, right? For a curly girl, and I believe the story goes in her uncle's garage. Okay, how does that go? And now she's in a Target store near you. Okay,
Yeah.
but she said that when she was in elementary school, she did a show and she was chosen to be Snow White, and she killed that role. She did such a good job. And so she said that from that day on, her mother will always tell her, like when she was nervous, you go in there, you be the best Snow White ever. She would always reference her Snow White performance. Hey guys, I wanted to remind you guys that there are plenty of ways you can still support your girl. That's right, the merch store is still open. You can get the copy of my first ebook of a series that is coming up, so stay tuned. My journal to self-love is still available. Make sure you get your copy and read up so you can get a deeper look into my life and my journey to self-love. Also, the merch store is still there with some of our favorite signature double dose of raw talk t-shirts, hoodies, you name it. It is fall season upon us. Why don't you go get yourself a hoodie and start rocking your girl? Ew. And one last thing, this show is sponsored by Cannabis Queen of Queens. Shout out to my girl Sully. That's right, the best canna blends out there. Oh, I am so mellowed out when I have my canna blends, either my coffee, my tea, my drink, and sometimes I infuse some of these meals, y'all. You don't want to miss this chance. Go to Cannabis Queen of Queens Etsy page, Canna Queen of Queens, and use code DDRT20 for 20% off. You don't want to miss this. Go support your girl. To continue the hype, continue that confidence, to believe in herself, because everybody just loved her performance on stage as Snow White back
Yeah.
then. That was an aha moment for me, because that whole conference was about tapping into your inner child. And in tapping into it, I've always said it, and I've said it on the show before. I don't know if my listeners remember, I always said my parents are the ones who have just taught me to be this confident. I was always looked at as that kid, and they just always led me that way. You
Right.
have to have confidence in your last name. You have to have confidence in your bloodline. You have to have confidence as Daisy. My dad used to call me Queen in Spanish. Reinita. That's what my dad used to call me. And I realized when Julissa Prado said that story, and I feel even more so in a safe space now and confident enough to admit this right now, because you're sharing your story too. I went up to Jolisa after the whole conference was done. I didn't take a picture with her because these days I am taking in the moments more so than capturing them. Okay.
Right. Right.
I hugged her and I thanked her for telling her story, because in that moment I realized that my confidence was not solely because of my parents and just the way I grew up. My confidence, I actually give that credit to my kindergarten teacher, Miss Correa, because back in elementary school here, we used to have this thing called Pan American Day. And you used to have to represent a country and perform. That's what the class used to have to do.
Yeah.
And in kindergarten, mind you, we even marched in the parade on the Grand Concourse. For those of you here in the Bronx, you know exactly what the Grand Concourse is. We represented Mexico. I had little braids with the little folkloric, very traditional outfit. We were just marching, okay? Little kindergartners marching. And at the school, I went up on stage. And there's this very known writer for the community of writers in the very Latino culture of historic times. She was called Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz. She was a nun, right? And she said a speech, and it was against men. I know that now. As a 5-year-old, I had no idea what the fuck I was saying, but I know that today. That was the speech. That was her poem. She had a poem, and it was towards men. It was against men, because as you may know, right, back in the day, women were always just so scrutinized by men, right? Women didn't have rights. Women didn't even have a voice, and so she wrote this poem. And according to my mother, and according to Miss Correa, who stayed in PS 28 in the Bronx, that's the school I went to. Shout out to PS 28. Well, CS 28. She gave me the mic and I memorized that whole poem. And I said it as a simple 5-year-old little girl, right? I memorized it and I said it. And I tapped into that in that conference. And I realized that that's really where my confidence came from. And I did not realize that I did not have that aha moment until Julissa said her story. And I realized that it wasn't that my parents helped me with that. It was that there was a moment that I was faced as a simple 5-year-old girl to memorize a whole poem that I had no idea what that poem said. I read that shit the other day, and I'm like, why the fuck is a kindergartner saying this damn poem? Like, this makes no sense, right? I mean, I looked cute. There's like a picture somewhere in a photo album downstairs in my mom's house. Like, I'm like, why the hell did I say this poem? Like, wow, just wow. But I realized that then. And to the point that you're making now, the truth is that we think about how much we put sometimes kids in the spotlight. You're a parent, I'm a parent, right? We think about how much we put kids in the spotlight. How a moment like that, holding a microphone in front of so many people, could be so scary to us.
Yeah.
Like at such a young age, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to be in that spotlight. And then we don't think about, right, how in that moment, that could really debilitate somebody's confidence from day one. Even before they experience any other milestones in their life besides graduating kindergarten.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we look at us today, right? And we look at us and we're like, fuck. Like, am I ever going to be able to stand on stage with a microphone and really kick imposter syndrome's ass? Yeah. Or maybe this is why I doubt myself sometimes. Because who the fuck told me to read a poem like that up on a stage in CES 28 at 5 years old? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I get it.
What the fuck? Like, I sometimes think about that.
And like I said, it's crazy what we hold on to as well. Because just as you were just telling that story, I'm thinking, well, I did do a play in second grade where I memorized. I was Abraham Lincoln in that play, and I memorized everybody's lines, and I killed that. But I don't hold on to that. I hold on to the Easter speech.
The other one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But how would my life be different if I held on to second grade Abraham Lincoln performance versus the Easter speech 86 performance? You know what I'm saying? Like, right. how would my life be different? Would I be a public speaker now? Would I have a TED talk by now? You don't know. But see, that's the thing. That's the crazy thing, what we hold on to. So it's one, the experiences themselves, and it's two, the individuals and what we hold on to. I like the fact that you had that experience, plus you had your parents that were confident and preached confidence to you. My mom, I love her to death, and she's a terrific lady. She's not as confident as she should be. I'm always hyping her up, like, Mama, do you know how pretty you are? What's happening? So she still is at that point where she's not as confident. So she couldn't push confidence upon me because it wasn't pushed upon her.
Yeah.
And so it's at this point breaking a generational curse of having that that level of confidence, and then only achieving only what you can achieve, because you're not going to achieve as much as you could without a certain level of confidence.
If you had that push.
Luckily, I don't have to worry about that with Brooklyn, because that girl has more confidence than both her parents and her grandparents combined.
Do you want to tell our audience who Brooklyn is?
Brooklyn is my daughter. She's 13. I'm going on 30, and I swear I am her biggest fan. Like this girl does so much, and she's so confident. And even when she's a little unsure herself, it's on stage in front of hundreds of people, and she might be a little meek, and then she'll kind of adjust and get it back together in like the second half or whatever she's doing.
I love it.
I swear she's my hero.
She's my hero. I love that. You know what it is too? I want to give you credit on that. And for any parent who is listening, right? For anyone who not so much only a parent, but someone who just happens to end up being a role model to someone younger, living your truth, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're watching, they see that. Yeah. And without us even knowing, that's exactly what keeps their confidence high. That's exactly what boosts them up. It's the fact that we are not giving up. It's the fact that you're coming back for a season 3 and a season 4. It's the fact that even though I took a week off from a break from doing a show, I came right back. It's the fact that we're still waking up every single day. Even if the confidence is not at 100, even if today I'm only waking up at 80% okay, but they see that and they know that. And so because we are still living in our truth, every single day we wake up, we're grabbing another brick and adding that to that whole story that we're creating here, right? Individually, right? And we're kicking imposter syndrome's ass on a daily basis, right? That's what keeps them going, because they're watching us. They're watching our every move. Essentially, that's what happens. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. My youngest brother, listen, he's a little ass, and he knows this, and I think he listens still, and he knows he's a little ass. But one thing with him is like, he's that type that gives you tough love, right? He's the tallest one in the whole family, but he's the baby, right? He's 31. No, I'm 35. So he's 31, right? He's 32 now, right? Okay, so he's 32. And he's the one that, like, he's the type that when he wants to go off on you, like, he does it with like that tough love type of shit. And like, he'll yell at you. He'll sometimes curse at you too. And like, he's also the one to make fun of you. He's also the one to make fun of you, right? That's just who he is. Yeah. But one thing with him, like, ever so often in life, as the years have gone by, there was one point in time, and I'm already getting choked up because I don't do well with this time. When he was deployed. He's a Marine. A veteran now. He was deployed. He used to write emails with me, and it was during my toughest time, my journal to self-love, my lowest point. Yeah. And it was going through a divorce. It was being a single mother. It was all of that. And he would write emails to me, and I would write them back to him. We would exchange conversation like that. And that was when he was still tapping into his emotional side. And there was things that he would say that reassured me that I still had someone who was younger than me, that even though he was out in another country fighting war, fully deployed, and here I am admiring him, there was still so much that he was admiring of me. And I say that to say, I didn't realize then, but that helped me realize that today, that there is always someone watching, that there is always someone watching your every move, what you say, how you think, how you move, the things you're doing, and the way you're doing it. And as much as I know I am a parent, right? And you would think, well, that's obvious, Daisy. Like, what the fuck? Like, you have a kid. The kid lives with you. He's going to watch your every move. But sometimes I tend to forget. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I tend to forget that he is watching me, right? And so I let imposter syndrome sometimes take over. I let that doubt, that self-doubt sometimes take over a little bit. And I have to regroup myself immediately. So kudos to you, because you probably don't even know it, but she's watching.
Oh, she's definitely watching. She'll tell me. She's like, so Daddy, remember that time? Oh man, you remember that?
Oh no, that's just a girl thing though.
Yeah. But I'm
she
happy
picks things
with
up and she tells you about it.
It puts me on my toes. I definitely have to stay on my toes with her. So it's remembering the good and the bad. I'm very proud. I'm very lucky to be a father. I am very
Yes,
lucky.
shout out to
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
yeah,
Shout out to
yeah,
Brooklyn. People here in New York City say that all the time, but on
yeah.
this episode, it's a special meaning. It's not just Brooklyn. It's a 13-year-old going on 30 Brooklyn. Yeah, this is amazing. So we're gonna go right into the next segment, which is a double or nothing. And this is where I want to tackle a little bit more of the conversation of mental health awareness. So
Yeah.
it's no secret here on my show. I am in healthcare.
Hmm.
And in what I work in today, of course, I keep some form of confidentiality in where I work and what I do, right? Because we just have to respect that.
Right.
But also, I am more so aligned now with mental health awareness. And also, I've just been an advocate of that since forever, since I started therapy my very first time, which was around age 22 when I became a single mother and I hit my rock bottom. Okay. On October 10th, this past month, well, of the month of October, was World Mental Health Day. And the truth is, 99.9% of our lives, right? Your life, my life, it involves, impacts, and interests our mentals, our mental state, our mental abilities, whether we are in therapy or not, whether we're getting some form of help or support. When you think about it, our entire brain is constantly functioning every single day, even when we're asleep, right?
Right. Right.
Um, I just had a full blown retro confidential episode where I was very much so confessional here.
Yeah.
I was giving all the confessional doses a little bit. I was definitely tapping into that shit. I'm not gonna lie. And I wanted to know from you, because I know you have your own show. You more so. I know you bring guests on, but your show is technically a one-man show. I'm just saying that show is a one-man show, and being that this is a one-woman show, it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. Let me just say that in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Okay. That shit ain't
Yeah.
easy. And then we're
No.
producing and editing and doing all that shit. So
Right.
kudos to you on that, because I know what that life is like. What are some of your quote unquote air quotes confessions when it comes to the mental health aspect of your life? How is it that, with that 10-year challenge, to when you were there and where you are today, how you're able to cope with your mental health?
I think for me, it starts with just kind of recognizing my mental health and recognizing where I am and being honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of times where I know I'm not right mentally, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
keep pushing, and somebody may ask me how I'm doing, and everything is always fine. I'm fine. I'm okay. It didn't matter if I have like negative $36 in my account. It didn't matter if I am to the point where I don't feel like I want to get out of bed or do anything productive. It doesn't matter if I'm like I don't even want to take a shower today. I'm not hungry, or I'm eating everything. Apparently, I'm eating Domino's chocolate lava cakes every day. It doesn't really matter. Like
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
whatever it is. If someone asks me how I'm doing, the answer is I'm okay. Even if they can tell in my voice that I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's to the point of actually just recognizing that it's like, hey, you're not right now.
Yeah.
You're struggling right now. And excuse me. Last perfect example. Last couple of weeks, I don't think I have been exactly where I wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
mentally. I feel and a lot of that is probably that seasonal depression that kind of happens with me. Every year right around this time, I like most people love when daylight saving times ends, so they get the extra hour of sleep. Not me, because that's more darkness, and I'm more propelled to sit there and kind of sit there. I'm not a big fan of the holidays, so it also adds to it. It's a little colder. It also adds to it. So, and then it's towards the end of the year, and I'll start. I'll get in my head about. I won't think about the Abraham Lincoln part. I'll think about the Easter speech part. So I won't think about all the accomplishments that I've done over the past year. I'll think about the things that I hadn't got done. And so now,
Oh.
I'm really pushing myself further down, a negative in a negative space. And so recognizing that this time of year it's rough for me, I just try to do a little bit of things differently.
Okay.
I want to I don't drink as I don't drink like, okay, I had a bad day, let me have a drink.
I got what you're saying.
Because you get into that point where that becomes habit for me, especially if you're dealing with seasonal depression. So for me, if I have a rough day and I decide to drink on a Tuesday, if I have an equally bad day the next day on Wednesday, no, I cannot drink. I'm not doing back to back days. So I got to split that up because alcoholism,
It's real.
it's genetic. It's real. It's genetic, and it runs in my family. It's not going to help with your depression. I try to just and it's even the smallest stuff. Like I think just kind of preparing for the show and kind of think about what we were talking about. It reminded me of a conversation that I had with one of my friends where they were saying, well, we were talking about all the the medicine you got to take. You get to be my age, Daisy. You got to start taking medicine and stuff now.
Not you reading me on my age right now. He's like, get ready, girl. Like Miss D's coming.
It's coming. 40 coming. But no, they were like, well, I say, well, I be forgetting sometimes to take my medicine or whatever. I'm like, well, don't you have it by your nightstand? No. I don't put it on my nightstand, and it's not because I've been in such a negative place that I shouldn't have it on my nightstand, but as a precautionary, I keep it far away where I have to get up and get it because I don't want to wake up and then a snowball effect happen where I'm in a particular mood and I just see these pills right here. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't want to do that. And I hadn't had those thoughts in quite some time. But they just because I hadn't had them don't mean I'm not going to sit there and be prepared, especially during this time of seasonal depression. So no, I'm gonna have to get up and get them. I'm gonna have to make a conscious effort to do it. And by then, I'm gonna go through some progressions. I'm gonna go through, hey, let's try to meditate. Hey, let's try to do some positive affirmations. Hey, let me call somebody and ask them, hey, talk about anything. You can talk about that you painted your walls. You can talk about that you saw a bug 2 weeks ago and describe the bug to me. Just talk about anything so I can get outside of my head. And so these are some of the things that I'm realizing about myself as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more into knowing myself from a mental and emotional state.
That is, first of all, let me congratulate you on how beautiful your self-awareness is right now, because that in itself is definitely an Abraham Lincoln speech. That in itself. No, I'm going to acknowledge you on that and give you those flowers, because I didn't realize how self-aware I am today, and someone gave me my flowers, and it was only until they gave me my flowers that I felt like it's okay if I'm not in the best place right now, but I'm self-aware.
Right.
And self-awareness is something that's really difficult for people to get to, especially when we still sometimes battle our mentals, on a day-to-day, or just overall in general. During my live show, it was actually on April 24th, my live show, I had people, of course, face-to-face in New York City. But I also had people join in through virtual. And shout out to all of you who made it. I admitted that I was in such a bad place that my therapist did tell me, like, if we cannot work through this in the next few sessions, I am going to give you medication. And your diagnosis is going to have to be changed at that moment. And I got very scared of that because here goes. We're just gonna get confessional here. I've definitely mentioned this in previous episode, but I'll dig deeper in this one too. And again, so related to that ebook. When everything hit with my separation, divorce, infidelity, all that good shit, I had just gotten my wisdom tooth removed, and I was prescribed very strong medication.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like candy store. Just popping in. Like there was a point I wasn't even in pain, but I asked that dentist to please refill it because I was feeling pain, and he did. And he refilled it with a lot more amounts. I mean, looking back on it now, that was just probably the wrong thing for him to do. I don't even know if that was fucking legal, to be honest with you, but he did it. He fucking did it. And I couldn't sleep, and so I would just pop those pop it just to go to sleep. I did not give a shit about who was around. Here I am as a single mom. I didn't want to stay awake. I didn't want to feel everything that I was feeling at such a low point. So I would just take it just to make it knock me the fuck out, because I wasn't even feeling pain anymore for me to say,
Right.
oh, it's just working and I could just function. No, I would take it just so I could knock out, literally. That's how serious that situation was. So to your point, I know there's ibuprofen in this house. I don't even know where it is, because I buy it for like that one moment if I absolutely need it. And then it's like it gets put away, air quotes, and I don't know
Mm-hmm.
then where the hell I put it. Like,
Right.
that's how I try as much as possible to stay away from these things. I'd actually gotten many years later after that, my other wisdom tooth removed. And I was so afraid to get those type of pills prescribed again that I told the dentist not to prescribe it. And he said, "Are you crazy? Like, you're gonna need it for pain?" I said, "No, I'll deal with Motrin." And he's like, that's not gonna be enough." And I was like, "No, it is. It's gonna be fine." When I tell you that I was in pain, excruciating pain, even with Motrin, for days after that, I was in excruciating pain. I was taking a whole 1,000 milligrams of Motrin just to help with that pain, and I could still feel the pain on top of that, but
Shit.
I refused. I
I get it.
refused to take the other pills because of how I already associated it with what I had gone through years prior, right? So I refused. I refused. So I say that to say, to your point of being so self-aware where you are today, that in itself is a success with your mental state, because you're able to identify that and you're able to see it and know it. So you're already working towards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let me just say, we are constantly working towards
We are.
how to better ourselves, how to continue empowering our mental state, how to stay as positive as we can with our mentality and our thought process and our positive thoughts. There, honestly, those positive thoughts, to your point, really come from when you turn to someone to talk about something different, right?
Yeah.
Because when someone else can really bring you a positive thought, or could really bring you those encouraging words, um, maybe they don't even know it, but it seems like just such a great fix for us in that
Mm-hmm.
moment. And it just clears the air. It clears our vision, it clears the air, and we're able to see things in someone else's light, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to commend you on your self-awareness, and
Thank
also
you.
for being vulnerable to give that confessional. Because I always want to be very raw with this. The perspective that it takes on a woman's side, right,
Mm-hmm.
or the female side, I should say, respectfully to anyone who identifies as she, her, female, is sometimes very different to how it is for a man, like how, or a male, how you just said, right? You're always gonna be fine. You don't
Yeah.
tell people
Yeah.
when you're not
Yeah.
fine. You
Yeah.
know, do you think, and this could totally be also another confessional, do you think that that tends to be the theme when it comes to men? Do you think that for the male person or the male perspective, they're always just gonna be fine? They're not going to show that they might be in a rough place.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it has to do with just being a male, and you're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be stoic. You're supposed to be just this unwavering.
Mm.
But it's even more so the pressure that I put on myself. So I got the general male pressure, and I got the Jarratt pressure, which is way worse. So
Those are
it's
two different things here.
yeah, it's two different things, and the crazy thing is, like, what if I am struggling, everybody knows it, and no matter, because I guess maybe it's my facial expressions, maybe it's the tone in
Mm.
my voice. Even Brooklyn knows when I'm bullshit. Like, Daddy, you okay? Baby, I'm fine. Okay, you're not. Okay, you're not. You're not.
Oh.
Like she's like she. I think she's a little empath. But she does, see that stuff, and it's hard because I want to be that great friend. I want to
Mm-hmm.
be that great father. I want to be that great co-podcaster, and I want to be a great podcaster single on my own. I want to be a great podcast producer. I want to be a great coworker. Um, I want to have all these things and be strong and be dependable, and you can count on me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going through a crisis, I got you. And if you need something, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even worry about it. Jarratt is the most dependable. Well, that's what I was voted in my high school class, most dependable.
Oh, okay.
I think it went to my head. So now I'm trying to be dependable at all times, even when there's a struggle. And that's it's funny that you mentioned the pill thing. As far as staying away from that. I think I struggle with sleeping, and I stay away from sleeping pills, and I have a shit ton of sleeping pills in this, all kinds in here, and I rarely take them. I really even take melatonin. I rarely take them because of that, because it was to a point when I was, during that time where I was at my lowest, I was riding around with sleeping pills in my car just in case I had a bad day, and I was just like, fuck it. You know, like so now I'll just, I'll just deal with, I'll just not sleep. I'll just be on TikTok at 2:00 in the morning. It's fine. It's fine.
Not the TikTok therapy. Listen.
No, but it is a pressure. But it is a pressure to always be okay. You're right, and
it is a pressure.
It takes a lot more strength to sit there and say, I'm not okay. And that's hard. That is so hard to say that.
Yes. Let me just say, you just said that, and I felt that entirely in my chest. Like, all of it, throat chakra and all. Like, I just felt it, because it is so hard. Like, when we are in a space to admit that, one, I want to say it's easier to admit it to someone else than it is to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a lot of things I do in front of my mirror. That's the way I talk to myself. It's the way I hype myself up. But for me to stand there and be like, bitch, you're not okay. Like, you're just not okay. I can't do it. I could say it here on the mic because I can admit that there are days I'm not okay. But I cannot look at myself in the mirror still to do that. I could talk about that with a therapist, because a therapist can help me regroup, for me to figure out how I can bring myself up again and be okay again, right? But I can never just stand there and look at myself and say, you are not okay. Because, and I'm going to, keeping it all the way raw, this is definitely not one of my strengths, and I have no problem admitting if this is even considered a weakness, right? Because I don't know what this would be considered. But I feel like I'm letting myself down and looking at myself, telling myself, you fucked up. And imagine me having to face that. Me telling myself, you're not okay. Like, to admit that to me, it's really tough. To admit that, me.
Yeah.
Like, I could probably hear someone else tell me, I don't think you're okay. I could probably take that from another person. But myself, tell myself that? Oh, I fucked up because all I got is me. I'm me. I feel that. I'm my number one person. I'm my number one cheerleader. I'm my number one hype man. I preach this all the time. That's what I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be the person that tells yourself, I'm not okay. You're not okay. Like, I'm not. It's looking in the mirror and saying that is so tough. Yeah. It's beyond tough. One more question to you on knowing what we know now and the self-awareness. How is it that you balance it all out to not allow Jarratt be spread out so thin? How do you balance it all out?
Honestly, just being real, I'm still struggling with it. I have been doing better. Okay. I will say that I have been doing better, but it's that whole not wanting to let anybody down, including myself thing. Like, for example, I last week I missed, well, not last week, the week before last, I think I missed episode of Vex because I went home, went to Shreveport, Louisiana. Shout out to Shreveport. Okay. I went, for my mom's birthday, hung out with her. I got a chance to, hang with Brooklyn and her siblings, which, we're all like a little village. So it's everybody's, my co-parent comes there with her fiance and his kid and then her kid. So we all just be the kids just be bouncing around from one adult to another. It's a very weird thing. That's a whole podcast episode in itself. But it was just being there for that, and then driving to Dallas so I could go watch her play volleyball. And I'm not recording, and I feel like, as a person who does the who does the editing and the social media for
Yeah.
Vex. I'm like, I'm letting y'all down. They still sent it to me. They still sent me the file to edit and produce it, but whatever.
I mean, we gonna put you to work.
I mean, you still gotta work. You still gotta work. But just to be able to just to miss that part, or maybe like some of my friends are in a tight spot. I had a coworker that recently lost her husband, and she's actually been leaning on me as far as just talking and everything. So
Right.
she may call and we're talking. I'm like, it is Monday night and I gotta finish this editing for this podcast.
Right.
But
right.
but I can't be like, sorry about your husband. I guess I'm gonna talk to you a little bit later. So the podcast comes out a little late. The podcast comes out at noon, tomorrow, instead of coming out when it's supposed to come out because you're trying to be there. So it's a balance to try to be there for people and be there for yourself. And you always feel like you're dropping the ball, but you gotta. It's almost like prioritizing what's more important in that sense. Putting out your podcast so that when people wake up in the morning, they can hear it, or is it being there for somebody who is crying her eyes out, who really needs it?
Yeah. That's an interesting way you put it. And I might have to start adopting that because I've actually always felt guilty when I don't release the episode. Because lately I've given myself the grace and space, right?
Yeah.
But I do feel a sense of guilt that I don't release it on Thursdays at midnight, right?
Yeah.
As soon as it hits midnight and it's Thursday, I do feel a sense of guilt. I sometimes do feel like I've let my listeners down because I released it at 8 p.m. Thursday. Because I have given myself that time, that little bit of a leeway. Because whether I needed it, whether my child needed me, whether something happened in the family that they needed, like I still felt a sense of guilt. I have. But when you put it that way, it's true, right? Because there's someone in real person, like right then and there, who just so happens to need you. And so maybe the listeners can just give us that space, right? That moment, that maybe something is going on personally that we're just not able to hit, release, publish at a specific time.
Right, and I heard you last week say that a lot. Thank you all for giving me, the grace and the space to miss a week and everything. The thing about it is, your dedicated listeners. Speaking as a dedicated listener, your dedicated listener. I'm not mad at you for taking a week off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad at you for taking a couple of weeks off. I wasn't mad when you went on vacation and you were just giving us, mini episodes instead of giving us the full episodes. Yeah. Because when you are in this space where you're creating and you're giving so much of yourself, people who listening to you, people who care, let's be honest. If we listen, we probably care.
That's
I care.
true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
right.
the fact that we care, we want you to be okay. I want you to be, the very best Miss D you can be when you're on the mic. And if you're struggling with something, or you just need a break, or you need rest, or maybe you want to sit there and take a little bit for a time for the holidays just to sit there and refresh for next year, no one's going to have a problem with that.
Right, absolutely.
But in our minds, we're letting, I'm letting everyone down. People are going to be looking for it. People are going to hate me. They're going to stop listening. I say a lot of crazy things in my podcast. It's a lot of reasons for people to stop listening to me. Like me taking a break ain't one of them. It just ain't.
That's not the reason why. It's because I probably offended somebody last week.
Right.
What did I say?
I'm sure I said some shit. I said some, and I got some episodes coming up that I'm definitely gonna lose some listeners. Whatever.
That's why when I listen to you, I'm constantly like, "Damn, that makes sense." So I like part of me said he named this show "Damn" because it's exactly what I'd be saying. Like that word is in there for a reason.
It's in there for a reason.
That's me. I'm like, damn, that's so true. That's me the whole time. But you know what though? That's the type of impact and influence I would want, and I wouldn't want anything less, right? Exactly. Because I think that's exactly what people look for in us. Listen, I used to say we're public figures, me being someone who's considered a public figure according to IG standards for my, privacy settings. But when I think about it, we really also are more so public speakers than just public
Hmm.
figures, right?
Right.
We're public speakers because our voices are being brought to the table. And we're doing this every single week, right? Or every time we release an episode, but more so, we're bringing certain topics of conversation to the table, and we're bringing our truths and our stories, right? And we're being all the way raw and transparent, and the impact we have. To your point, I want to believe, right, that the same way all yours guys shows, right, and bring me right to listen every single week, is because I genuinely feel nothing less than authenticity when I'm listening to the shows. I genuinely feel that this is that person's story. I genuinely feel, and believe it or not, it has nothing to do with, I mentioned her here before. She's been a guest here twice. Imani Blair, like the rapper podcast. She is in her 20s, and there's things sometimes that she shares that I'm just like, I remember going through that shit then in my 20s too, but I also have gone through that shit like just last week. Like,
Yeah.
so to
Yeah.
me, it's like, it's not so much like, oh, I have to, age so well to be able to tell a full story,
Right.
because my story could be all the way raw as of age 20 all the way to 25.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My story could be all the way raw and real from that point, and it could be the most impacting and the most influential story ever that could probably be so relatable and change someone's life. And here I am at 35. I'm my story's still being told, and then some other shit happens, right? And who gives a fuck what happened between 25 to 35? The point
Right.
is, my story is still being told as I wake up
Exactly.
every single day, right?
Exactly.
So for me, it's like, I look for the authenticity. I look for the genuineness. I look for, when I tune in, I'm hearing not just a public figure, I'm listening to a public speaker because they're
Mm-hmm.
speaking their truth. I'm listening to someone tell their story so much, right? Share their experiences, like putting our fucking hearts out every single time we turn on this mic. And we don't know who's gonna embrace it. We don't know who's gonna stay following us, because I might have said some fucked up shit. You might have said some fucked up shit. But you know what? That's our truth. That's exactly who
Exactly.
we are. It's our story,
Yeah.
right? Um, I appreciate you saying about, still struggling with the balancing act, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think that's also part of who the public speaker is versus the public figure. I
Mm-hmm.
think that, how we said before, it's like the public figure still controls what they could post and how great they make it look, right? But when we have that public speaker, we have nothing but our truth to talk about, right? We have nothing but to tell that story. And it's our own story, and we live it day by day. One more thing with you. What are the top, and listen, I'm going to mention it because it's what inspired the title of last week's episode when I called it a retro confidential. This damn retrograde. Damn, see, this damn retrograde. It was a moment with it. Do you at all believe in that? Because I don't always believe in it. I'm going to be honest. I don't always believe in the retrograde, but I tend to blame it all the time when shit goes wrong and, social media says
Yeah.
there's a whole retrograde. But do you think that, whether we believe in it or not, do you think it's something very real when it comes to the motion and the universe and just shit going on? Like how we said, oh, there's something in the air going on. There got to be something in the air. Like, do you think that that's real? And if it is, and if you do think so, do you think that there's anything that you learn during times when something feels off or there's something in the air?
I absolutely agree that's something there as far as the
Mm-hmm.
retrograde, and
Mm-hmm.
like you said last week, um I don't, I'm not the foremost expert on the
Right.
Mercury retrograde,
Mm-hmm.
but I know enough to be dangerous, and I know enough where I can like, okay, it's the retrograde. Let me start looking up some shit. So
He said it's
I
dangerous.
enough to be dangerous, enough to fuck up some shit. I know just enough to. So I looked at. I think I looked at what to look for as far as a retrograde for my sign,
Mm-hmm.
Taurus.
Yeah.
Um, and also during the retrograde, and also looked up some stuff like afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
like now that the retrograde is over, what to do. And I think what was interesting when I looked it up, it said that as far as your physical wellness, just in this health in regard, that took a slide back during the retrograde, which it really did for me. It really did, because I was so focused working on everything. I mean, I got my end of the year awards coming up, so I'm struggling with that. I'm trying to finish out the podcast. I'm trying to expand everything. So the 5 mile walks that I was doing prior, that fell off. The 100 push-ups a day I was doing, that fell off, and I was like, and so it was interesting. Right around the time that the retrograde ended, I was like, I got to get back on my physical stuff. I got to get back at it. And part of that was just me thinking about it. Part of me seeing your stories, because I see you back at the gym and everything. I'll be peeping you, girl.
Thank you. That's all right. See, that motivates me to keep going. Which I have a session tomorrow, and I know he's gonna make me cry. But go ahead.
I'm gonna have to get somebody to make me cry too, I guess. But yeah, that was part of it. It was all right. I need to focus on this. So that's one thing I've learned from that. I'm like, it's so important for my mental and emotional too, not just the physical. I have to sit there and start doing that, and it goes along with that struggle for balance.
Yeah, I
got to start doing that, because I'll be in this apartment trying to create content and brainstorm and just be pacing around, and that's just not good enough.
Yeah.
The other thing I learned that towards the end, after the retrograde, that I needed to focus a little bit more on self-care. I know the importance of self-care. You know what I'm saying? I've been going to therapy for years. So Daisy, I know the importance of self-care, but at the same time, I hate fucking self-care. I hate doing it. I don't like it. I don't like trying to figure out what the fuck it is for me. I don't know.
That's the part though. Yes, that's the part. You sound like you're about to go into an overdose too. I'm gonna be honest. You sound like you're about to rant off on what the fuck is self-care for me.
Yeah. Oh, that could be an overdose, but since I have gone off about that previously, I'm gonna take a step back and go, I know that I need self-care. I just need to figure out what self-care is.
What that means to you. What does self-care look like to you? Because it's different from what it looks like to me. And I'll be honest with you, Rasa, and I don't know if people know this, but this is part of the self-awareness. What self-care was to me last month is not self-care this month. I'll be honest with you, okay? Because even when your body, your mental reaches that threshold, right?
Yeah.
Like, all right, this was self-care. I'm fully satisfied. I'm taken care of. All right, what's next? Like, is that supposed to always be the thing?
Yes.
Like, is that it? Because I'm not gonna just make it just to make it, just to check it off, just to feel like, all right, I'm at that, I'm okay, I'm there, I'm on survival mode. No, I need. It's kind of like who I was last year. I have to be the next person, the next version of Daisy, right? It's kind of like that. My self-care has to go along with that, right? Because, all right, let's look back at it, right? There used to be once upon a time that self-care to me was going to get my mani and my pedi.
Right.
That was for me for a very long time. That was my me time. That was my self-care. But you know what? Self-care is actually different. I was able to define that during the pandemic. And then that shifted again. And I was able to define that once outside started opening up. Right? And even today, as I'm still like, I'm about to hit 36, the self-care is looking really different now too. Like, there was certain plans I was trying to make for self-care. It didn't go through because, me and I wanted this self-care to be with my friends. Right? But our schedules were not aligning. And so I said, it's all right. It's all good. You know what we're going to do? We're going to wait. I want it to be a little warmer, and we're going to try it one more time, because I think we all need it. And B, I really just need my friends for that self-care, right? But sometimes scheduling, right? It just be scheduling, and it be fucking up. Like, we get curveballs left and right, So I think it's about defining what that self-care looks like for you, and then knowing what it is today, having to accept the fact that you're gonna have to revamp and know it's kind of like a rebrand and a relaunch, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, all right, I gotta switch this shit up now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So self-care is something that pisses you off, clearly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know I need to do it. I know that I need to work more on my physical well-being, and I think the third thing for me is getting to a point of planning and in growing what I'm trying to do. I think that was also what I ended up seeing in the research for as what to do after the retrograde, and that hits home because for the last couple of months I've been thinking about how can I monetize, how can I grow things out. Like when I first started this, I wasn't sure if it was for me.
Okay.
Like, people told me, well, I would write a blog and people was like, oh, you're a great writer. And I'm just like, really?
Mm-hmm.
and so then they were like, you should do a podcast. And I was like, really?
It was like,
so I went back and forth for like some years and finally did it. And I'm like, am I doing this right? Am I supposed to know what I'm doing? Like that TikTok. Are we supposed to know what we're doing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know, and so like I think it took this year for me to start getting comfortable enough where I'm like, okay, you know what? I like putting myself out there and saying all this because yes, I'm hopefully helping people. Yes, hopefully I'm being that public speaker for people. But more importantly, it's therapeutic for me. It's keeping me from bouncing off the wall because I can say whatever the fuck I want to say on this mic. So that helps. But now it's to the point where I'm like, well, now that I know that I like this, I'd rather do this than to do the day job that I'm doing. So how can I make money so I can just do this and do less of that? Because that I don't like that.
I hear you.
This I like. And so it's now it's like, okay, branching out and again putting yourself out there where you don't feel like an imposter by saying, hey, you should give me money because because I'm good at this and I'm doing this.
Right.
So that's the part of it for me that I'm learning after the retrograde. Like it's time to really start building stuff. It's time to really start building yourself physically, monetarily, and I guess, self-care.
Yeah. Tap into that though. Tap into that. Maybe this is the time where you could give self-care, the topic itself, a second chance, and tap back into it. Honestly. And you might have that aha moment, right? Like I didn't go into a conference thinking there was going to be an aha moment, but they made me fucking tap in. I had no choice. I was like the theme that day. I was like, I didn't know I was walking into a tapping in session, but the whole fucking day was tapping in. And shit, was that like a self-awareness, reality, self-caring check for me. Like it was all the way real and raw in that moment. I'm gonna be honest with you. And I did not expect that. There was also a prayer there, and I talked about this in last week's episode, but there was a whole prayer there that I want to say, as much as I'm still on my journey back with my faith and I'm tapping into that too, man, it's been a whole experience to not only listen to someone's prayer when they're praying over you, when they're prophesying over you, but it's been a good feeling to actually accept it.
Yeah.
Because before I wouldn't, and now I do. So I will say that. But on the next time we have Jarratt here, he's going to let us know how's he doing with his journey to self-care.
See, all I heard you say was the next time I'm on the show. So I was like, yes.
Yes.
That's all I heard you say. Yes, I made it.
You know it. All right, we're going to go into the third and last segment of the show, which is the overdose. And this is usually when we go on a raw rant, right? On something that pisses us off, or we just share something that keeps us on a good vibe. So I always ask my guests if they want to go first, but otherwise I'm always happy to go first. So let me know, is there anything you want to share on a good vibe, or is there anything you want to go on a quick rant on, or do you want me to go first?
I do have a slight quick rant.
Yeah, go ahead, Jarratt. Let's go.
Me and you are both digital content creators.
Yeah.
And they're, for people who just, take in the product, they don't really realize the struggle. And we can talk about it on a mic, and everything, but they don't really realize the struggle. They don't realize that it takes a lot to sit there and figure out what episodes you want to do, and then reach out to guests, and then pitch to the guests, and then cater around their schedule, and then deal with their issues. Because hell, I wasn't ready to record one day because I was having a rough mental health day, and you had to sit there and cater around that. and then once you get the guests, making sure that they stay on topic, because I tend not to be on topic, and then and then going back and doing the edit, and then promoting, and then creating, like, you got to decide if you're going to do a story or a reel or a TikTok or a post, and then you obsess over these numbers as far as how the posts go, and obsess over these numbers as far as how the downloads go, and then and then try to cater to this stuff, and then you're looking at your merchandise, and you're looking at the dollar signs, and you try to move this, and there is a lot that goes into it. So when we talk to people who are in our lives and we ask for support.
Ooh. Talk your shit, Jarratt.
When we ask for motherfucking support, it's a little bit more than looking at my story and then telling me about it when you see me. Oh, I see you doing real well on your little podcast. First of all, ain't nothing little about my damn podcast because I put in all this goddamn work for this podcast. It ain't little, first of all, and you just looking at my story is a little bit more. I need support, and let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, support does not mean just looking at my story or double tapping on a post. Now, granted, everybody's financial situation is different. I don't expect people to sit there and take care of me because I decided to be a content creator. So if you can't, you don't want to buy the merch, the damn you shirts. If you don't want to sit there and get a little warm and have the double dose of raw talk hoodies that are currently available right now.
Shout out to you.
I got you.
Shout out to you.
I got you, girl. I got you. So if you don't want to sit there and do that, hey, listen to the podcast. Write a review. Share it with somebody. Tell somebody something. Like, comment. Comment. How hard is the comment? Ooh, this was a great topic right here. I don't even care if you didn't hear it yet. It was a great topic right there. Keep it up because it helps with the algorithms or some shit. I don't know how the algorithms work, but I know that they say comment. I know they say save stuff. So please, when you see somebody who is busting their ass and you say that you're proud of them, and you look in their face and say that you're proud of them, show some support for what somebody is doing.
You know what? Jarratt feels better. And you know what? I think Jarratt just got like the award for the best overdose ever. Like this has got to be the best overdose ever. Like I'm just like, you know what he said? Everything that he just said, that's my overdose.
I've been practicing for 2 days. It's been on my mind for 2 days. I've been ready for this.
You know why you practiced for 2 days? Because you was coming in with Abraham Lincoln mentality. You wasn't coming in with that Easter speech mentality. You was coming in.
Ain't no Easter speech here, girl. It's all Abe Lincoln.
This is Abe Lincoln. This is Abe Lincoln on the show just now with Overdose. That was. No, but you know what though? He's very, honestly, I totally was gonna give a very emotional overdose, but fuck that. I'm going to jump on this it's about damn time overdose. That's what I'm gonna jump on because it's true. It's true. I listen, my merch is still there. I was totally working on a revamp with some insert air quotes. But I do still want the signature double dose of raw talk to be there, right? Because there are so many things there for people to show a level of support, whether it's a mask, whether it's a mug, whether it's a fanny pack. Listen, I fuck with fanny packs. I go to the gym. I don't want to carry a whole gym bag sometimes. I want to just rock my fucking fanny pack and my bottle of water and that's it, so I have things there. And it's not to say that our shit, it's so cheap. It's not to say that, but sometimes that one time you do show that level of support. And to Jarratt's point, you don't have to necessarily purchase something, but it's the part of you actually sharing besides just liking. It's the part of you actually just commenting besides just giving that compliment like, hey, that was such a good episode. But did you share it? But did you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I listened to you, but did you do that? You know what I mean? Because unfortunately for some of us who are on in the creative space, we do we do need certain social media platforms like Instagram. And unfortunately, Instagram has just gone down this fucked up algorithm rabbit hole that I don't even think Instagram has figured out how the fuck to do it anymore, except just
No.
fucking with people's money.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say that, because it's not just me and you, right? It's when somebody is showing off their creative side, they don't get as many likes to that post versus how many likes they get by showing off some muscles or showing off some ass and titties, right?
Right.
That's what gets the most likes, and it's because of the algorithm. Because I've seen people post both things under the same page, right? Public figures, podcasters,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't get that many likes to what their creative space session looks like versus what their half naked post looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what that tells me is you're just stigmatizing, right? Not us, but excuse me, New York City. If you hear that honking, that's New York City for y'all. Um, you by me saying you're just stigmatizing, it's platforms like Instagram are continuing to stigmatize and are continuing to categorize us as nothing but just flesh and blood, and monetizing off of our bodies and monetizing off of, oh, you're only going to get this paid partnership if you show some titties or if you show some ass or if you show yourself, with all your muscles and all your this, and then you have to fit a certain type of a body type
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for it to be okay, for it to be
Right.
part of the algorithm, for it to
Right.
get
Because
all those
I'll
likes.
show my titties if you want me to show my titties. That ain't no problem. I ain't got the muscles, but if you want me to just lift my shirt up and show some titties to get some extra likes on IG, come on, IG, let me know.
Well, you know what? Let's just, and you know what? We could close it out with this. Let's keep it all the way raw. Ready?
Ready.
Cardi B had her birthday party, right? And it was
Mm-hmm.
a whole theme to it. I don't know if you saw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lizzo went with that theme, and she wore a certain very revealing outfit, and I thought she looked beautiful, and I love the color, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's a voluptuous plus size woman. I'm here for it
Mm-hmm.
because I'm also a very plus size, curvy, voluptuous woman, right? Okay, cool.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Everybody had a problem with it, and then somebody did a genius thing. They put her picture beside Rihanna, wearing the exact same thing a long time ago. Rihanna wore that shit. I think it was to the VMAs. I don't remember where exactly she wore it. Or maybe it was to the Met Gala. I can't remember. But the point is, it's always going to be acceptable for someone who looks more appealing, more, attractive. Because why? Because they fit a certain size or a certain structure. It's okay for that to be totally liked a million fucking times. But if it's someone who looks out of the norm, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem. And now I have to say it that way because it's not just against women, it's also against men, right? Like, that's also a problem. I thought I saw someone once write, there was a post in one of the blogs of this male who models in Fashion Nova menswear. And he's a husky guy. He's one of the husky guys, which I thought he looked great, right? He's not your perfect bod. He's a husky guy, right? Not muscular, just a husky man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody commented, and I saw it in passing, right? Just in the comments on, the algorithm. And they said, oh, great. Now it was a woman. It was a female by what I could see in the icon. Oh, great. Now we're normalizing this unhealthiness. Why would you say that? That's not necessarily unhealthy.
Right.
That's not necessarily unhealthy. It's not. And so again, we go back to that, right? To what it looks like, right? To what it looks like from a standpoint of, well, what's normal and what's not, right? What's normal for us to support and what's not normal for us to support or to share or to hit like, or even what this algorithm now looks like to what Instagram considers, or any other social media platform really that at some point can control their algorithm to say, this is normal to see, this is normal for you to like, this is normal for you to share, this is what's likable, this is what is accepted in society today, versus what society really feels they can just share if they fucking felt like it.
Right.
Okay. So to Jarratt's point, all of y'all that support us, all of y'all that listens to us, especially my listeners, please go support Jarratt and his podcast. I will be linking them in the show notes. And support and share. And, just check out our stores, check out our shows, check out everything. You never know. And you know what? Like my good friends and other podcasts say, tell a friend to tell a friend. If this show is not for you, maybe it's for somebody else. And you can continue to share it. And that makes a huge difference for us too. Because we really do work hard. We show up and we show out. All the damn time.
All the damn time. And that's as real as it gets.
Oh my God, Jarratt, this is such a good conversation. I want to thank you so much for coming on my platform and my show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful. I'm really
Yes.
appreciative.
Yes, this is exciting. He will be back. I always said about all my guests, and all my guests do come back. So there. I'm just gonna make sure by that time self-care is checked off, and then you
Fine.
can let us know how that was.
I'll start working on it. Yeah. I'm gonna go for a walk after I get off with you. I'm gonna go for a walk now.
Yes. Would you like to tell my guests, my audience, where they could find you?
Yes, you can find me across the board on multiple social media platforms at The Whole Damn Show. That's DAWHOLE DAMNSHOW. Also, my podcast is About Damn Time Pod on IG. That podcast, new episodes drop on Tuesdays. Vex Intellects podcast, they dropped every Thursday. Available on all podcasting platforms.
Yes.
And as Daisy said, the link will be in the bio. Feel free to talk to me, slide in my DMs. You want something to talk about? You want to give me different topics to talk about? I like to talk about things that change the narrative, to change the perspective on things. So things that people may have a certain mindset about. I want to let's talk about it. Anything from masturbation and male sex toys to mental health. I want to talk about it. So if this sounds something that you're interested in, check me out.
That's
I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for that. Y'all need to go tap into that one. Y'all really do. All right, guys. Well, as always, this has been another week and another episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast. I am your host, Miss D, and you guys will tune in next week. Bye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And we are live on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Make sure to tell a friend to subscribe, rate, and review. Talk to you later.